Hello, School of Rock. This is a video to explain what's going on for the second half of April. And I'm starting on the schedule because this is, again, the intention is that if you go to the daily schedule, things should make sense. A number of students have already reached out asking for clarity, and that's the point of this video. The video will be detailed because I'm trying to pre-answer as many questions as possible. And here's the first part. Everybody's doing the exact same thing in process. They are not doing the same thing in content because we have beginning and advanced students, and we have some choices within the structure of our course already. So let me explain what that means. First off, if I look at the schedule here, I have an update about remind.com. If you register here, I'm sending out a daily text that has both either inspirational components for School of Rock and things to work on and challenge yourself, or class material. It's just a way to communicate. The content through Remind is going to reinforce or support what we're doing in class. Main information that's really crucial for the class will also be sent out via Skyward's email connections with both parents and students. And the schedule will always be the centerpiece. So in emails or Remind, if I'm having something specific related to the class, I'll always send you back to the schedule because this changes regularly. So anytime I've updated something on the schedule, you'll see up here the time of day I did it and the day I did it. So there's that. Then following our structure that we've done in class all year is the I do, we do, you do. And so right here, what you'll see is I have this reminder, and then down here I have the you do component for you to work on. I figure there's no real I do because I'm not presenting stuff to class, and you're watching this video right now, so you can see what's available for you. And what I did is I structured it so that when you read through this, you just follow the steps. And when you see there's a link, please follow the link and read the content of that material. And again, this is nothing new. This is what we've been doing in class all year, so feel free, again, to follow that process. So when I talk about that everybody's doing the same process, everybody's establishing a stretch goal and making this blog post, and then making a SMART goal related to it as well. The project content that a student may pick could vary from working on the Melody project for the beginning students. I strongly recommend beginning students finish that because it's highly structured, and when you click on this link, it has all those details. If as an advanced student or a beginning student, you have some specific things you want to focus on, training, skills-wise, and you can gather evidence for that, that's why I'm leaving this open to you to work on as well. So if you're confused and you're a beginning student, finish the Melody project. You've already started it, continue on with that and finish it. And you have access to all the resources you need at home. With a Chromebook as the bare essentials, like any computer will work, but a Chromebook will work just as well as anything else. You have access to Soundtrap, you have access to the internet, to Hook Theory Lab, other resources that we're using in class. Those resources should be available for you to be able to work on. And if you have any problems with that, let me know. So continuing down this list, so everybody makes a blog post named Stretch Goal for April 2020. Then I want you to have this published by Thursday. And when I say Thursday, just sometime during Thursday, because I will be checking them off on Friday and giving feedback. And if there's things missing or it's not quite to my liking, I will let you know. The steps to do this are right here. And the SMART Goal worksheet that we've used before in class, I linked it here, and I'll come back to that in a moment and explain it. But when I click on this link, what I'm seeing is how to establish a goal. And I really like this quote, and I thought that that's kind of cool, so I left it there. An example of students showing off and setting what their skills goals are. This was a band that wanted to work together from kids that used to be in class. I thought it was kind of neat how they introduced themselves and what their roles are and what they were trying to accomplish. Right here, we have the stuff that will be measured. 21st century skills are the most important skills for the world of work. Yes, there's core content, there's specific technical skills a person needs, but we've heard this in class many times that the 21st century skills are the most important. What happens is a person's hired for their skill set but fired for the behavior. These are more behavioral skills, and again, way more important than the core content, because if you don't have this, you're not employable. If you have this, an organization can train you for specific technical skills. That's not as difficult. Finding somebody who can do the professionalism skills, 21st century skills, that's something that an organization can't do. That is something that you need to have at home, you have to work at school, and continue to grow with throughout your life. So we're going to be focusing on these. Now, what I'm going to do is look at your stretch goal and the content you put into it, and then how you measure how well you've kind of tracked your progress with that. Looking for specific things that you're accomplishing with these skill sets. You do not need to achieve all of these. That would be pretty ambitious. But I am looking for how you're approaching this, because a person may have a different stretch goal than another student, and some goals are going to lend themselves more to certain aspects of the 21st century skills. So what I'm trying to do is be flexible so people can choose a pathway, core content that is interesting to them, but yet still have continuity with all the students in class that you're working on professionalism and 21st century skills. So how do we put all this together? Well, first off, the most important thing is that you are working on researching and developing a skill set for a particular career pathway. And in School of Rock, there's a number of them, and it's beyond just this. When you look at these 5 roles, these are things that we kind of boil things down in class, and we have other components, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea of things you could research. And career exploration, if you click here, this is something we've done in the past, and Career Cruising is a really great site to explore different career pathways, the expectations, what kind of training do you need, how much education, and then what is beginning salaries, and et cetera, et cetera. So I want you to explore this a little bit. That will help you in writing out your stretch goal, but also focus your work on, is it work that's employable? And if so, then where and what pathway would you be on? Student samples, when you click on a blog post here, this was a different project, so you don't really need to explore this as much, but I mean, you can. That was when we did a blog post just for career exploration. So I'm going to go back to our stretch goal. And step 2, a research process. Check this out. This is one of my favorite podcasts ever. This gentleman, when you go into his work and take a look, what he wanted to research is what makes people great. What's it take? What kind of skill sets, determination, etc. And I strongly advise listening to this podcast. I think you'll really enjoy it. And I put the text of the podcast down the page here just because I thought it was kind of cool. So this is from Freakonomics, and you can explore that. But the idea of how do we get good, and that's your research. So if you listen to that whole thing, you're going to learn a lot about perseverance, how to structure practice. Just practicing doesn't get you better at things. It's how you practice. And there's something called deliberate practice and pushing your limitations. So if you're a guitarist and you practice the same thing over and over again, that's fine. But if you're not practicing beyond your ability on a regular basis, if not daily, you don't stretch. And thus the term stretch goal for this process. And so that's the research that I think you'll really enjoy. And I can't say enough about that. Right here, the SMART goal, we have an example from one of the film students. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to structure your SMART goal sentence and related to this project. Now, you can ignore the bottom half of this document because we're not building a project like we typically do, but I do want you to compose a sentence that has these 5 components in it. This part's really easy. By April 30th, as part of, and this is the career pathway you explore. So this could be composer, this could be some other, an engineer, depending on what you find related to the class in the Career Cruising website, your exploration. I want you to put that particular role here. That's your team. If that makes any sense. I will have completed, and then what learning are you going to focus on? And there's a number of resources for the Melody Project. Any of the learning resources I have in the Melody Project would work for this, because you're watching some of that material, learning from it, and then trying it out. And we already started this before the COVID-19 thing started, where we were watching the professor from the University of Wisconsin-Madison talking about how composition works within a period of music. And we learned about the phrases, the consequent, and et cetera, et cetera. So that right there could be a resource. If you want to go back and rewatch that and relearn some of those components, that would work. Then what do you want to be able to create? by the end of this, what tangible thing are you going to make? Now, again, if you're using the melody project, you are going to compose a melody that builds tension from the tonic to the dominant, and you're going to do that in a period of music. And so you're going to do 8 measures. You'll have your answering phase and your questioning phase. And, again, if you look at the resources, what we've gone through already, that's already set up. And so that would work. And then this would be just for the April project. And you can call it the April project or COVID-19 Project 1, because we'll be doing something in May as well. But I wanted to kind of get us structured with this, and I want to see how well this goes for everybody. So this is your SMART goal sentence that you'll write. And you don't need this document other than just to reference it to go, okay. And when I'm reading your SMART goal, I'll be looking for these 5 components to be represented in it. And if you don't have it structured that way, I will politely remind you that I want that stuff there, and I'll reference this document. All right, that's the SMART goal. Step 4, you're going to be writing your SMART goal right here. And I want you to create a blog post called that. And I want you to copy and paste this stuff into your blog. And then these bold statements, I want you to turn these into headings. A heading size 2 in our blog will work really well. And then underneath each heading, you'll write your content that we have. And step 5 is optional. Now, it's optional, but it's the most important component for the world of work. Let me say this. If you want to be amateur-ish, go through the process, because this is our first time doing it, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to emerge into a higher level, this component is basically documenting where you're at with the current skill set. Then maybe next week you would do, earlier in the week, about like a week from now, you would do another snapshot of your skill development. And then finally, at the end of it, 2 weeks from now, you would do another snapshot, maybe April 30th, of where you're at with that particular skill development. For instance, if you're learning how to play something on guitar, record yourself, just like maybe a video of your hands on the neck of the guitar. I like to keep faces out because I like to focus on the specific skill and less about the person. And people get intimidated, and it also helps protect our identity by focusing just on the component, the physical component that's doing it, fingers on a keyboard, etc. And if you're going to try to perform a component, that's fine. In the Melody project, we already have this baked in. It's already a component of it. I had you create a melody at the beginning of the project where you just made one. And the idea is we didn't really understand music theory at all, or music composition at all. And it should be a mediocre kind of composition that just kind of meanders and doesn't really have tension. It doesn't build anywhere and come back to home. That was the intention. So if you already have that, sweet. And you'll notice that in the Melody project, we then learn about, we try to reproduce the University of Wisconsin professor's melody using Soundtrap. And by putting the notes in and doing that, now you can use other tools beyond Soundtrap as well. There's a number of tools out there that are free and online, so you can use other ones. But the idea is that we're trying to replicate the melody to practice what a good melody looks like, and using the terminology that we learned in that tutorial from the professor. And then the third then we do an exploration on a composition we really like, and that's where we kind of left off, where you are finding the melody line on one of your favorite compositions, and I wanted you to isolate that with a MIDI file and just get that melody line and maybe 8 to 12 measures of it, just so you can see how it raises tension and releases tension. And using the Hook Theory website to see what key it was in, what is the tonic note of the melody you like, what's the dominant or subdominant, where are they building tension in their structure. And then finally, you're making a final composition that would include the tonic note and the dominant note, trying to raise tension. So in measure 1, you're going to have the tonic. In measure 8, you're going to have the tonic. And in measure 4 and 5, you're going to be raising the most tension. That'd be the green notes on our documents that we were looking at, and tonic being red. So right there for measure 1 and 8, you have tonic note or notes. And then in measures 4 and 5, you're raising the most tension with the green stuff, green notes. And then all the other measures in there, you can do whatever you want. But the idea is you're running away from home with the dominant, subdominant, and then you're coming back home to the tonic, and again leaving from home with the tonic as well. that would be a better structure. And so that's the whole point of the Melody project, is to learn how that structure works and to document it. So, having said that, that could be a really good way to structure this project. And you could record evidence of that. If you're doing something else, again, if you have an instrument at home that you want to perform, that's fine. I have even seen a student, and this is pretty awesome, trying to be able to perform better on piano, but they didn't have a piano. So they wrote out on a piece of paper the keys of a piano. Not all of them, of course. That would be crazy because that's 88 keys. But to life-size drawing, probably, 30, 40 keys, depending on how much paper they had. And maybe one hand at a time, they wrote down the note that is each key, and then on paper, they would be using Quizlet to practice hitting the right note at the right time. And so Quizlet would come up with a note, they would put that finger down on the piece of paper. Or they would be listening to a melody they really like, and they would be performing it with their hand on the paper as if they were playing that note. Now, that's just kind of crazy, but I'm just trying to give examples of how you can practice a particular skill set even with limited resources. Just putting that out there. And lastly, we have some examples of students in the past and what they've done. Now, I want you to be aware that this was work done in 2017, and these students did not understand the SMART goal process the way we do it now. The course has evolved and got better, and so I would expect your SMART goals to be written here, not just that. And you can see this nice image at the top of this blog post, which is really cool. This one, you'll see Cassie was starting to put together example of how to play a particular component. Again, this was the beginning of this type of project where we wanted to document over time skills development. And the student samples we have here only have one video. It'd be really exciting if we had 3 of them just performing their component. And notice how it just, again, focuses just on their hands playing on the instrument itself, playing something that they're trying to do. And we didn't see the final video when they showed their growth over time and how to play the component that they wanted to play. So those are examples that you could take a look at. Now, hopefully, this whole process of taking us through how to establish a stretch goal has been helpful. And again, a lot of students have reached out already when I first posted the material yesterday and had questions for clarification, and I wanted to make this video to go through step by step all of the things that could come up that you'd have questions about. So hopefully I've been inclusive of those types of questions. If not, please shoot me an email, and thank you for watching.